think we're live. Kyle, how you feeling today? Good afternoon and good morning for wherever you are in the world.
Covering all the things. I'm doing good. How are you, Claudia?
I'm doing well. I don't think we need a good evening quite yet, unless somebody is across the pond from us, in which case we're so excited to have you.
Awesome.
We'll let everybody trickle in and then we will jump right into it here in a minute. Kyle, scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you to go over this with us today? Don't lie to me now.
Well, let's put it about nine-ish.
Okay.
I wouldn't say jiggling excited, but I would say
Okay.
pretty excited.
10 is probably like somebody is in town for a concert, the weather is perfect outside. 9 is, oh my God, this is going to be an incredible webinar. So I understand.
It's going to be good.
Perfect. I think I will give us maybe 30 more seconds before we hop into it. Question of the day. What is your go-to ice cream flavor?
I'm a vanilla person.
A vanilla. Have you ever had Bluebell ice cream?
I have, yes.
Their homemade vanilla is probably one of the superior vanillas, I believe.
Big fan of vanilla. I will also do mint chocolate chip on occasion or whatever
Yep.
my wife or daughter bring home. But if I have to go to an ice cream shop with them, it's going to be if I can get a dish of vanilla.
I love it. A straight shooter, you always are, Kyle. It,
How
it
about you,
tracks
Claudia?
well. I'm a big mint chocolate chip fan myself, but I had a really good chocolate ice cream the other day that has me way in the two. I don't know. I don't know which one comes top.
Both.
Both, exactly. Well, I think we are live and we are live on our live stream. So let us jump into it. Guys, today we're going to be talking about Secure Audit. This is a series, one of three that we will be doing with the fabulous Kyle Hendrickson here. So we're going to go into how Secure Audit lays the groundwork for compliance, that big scary C word that we're always talking about. So let us dive into it. First and foremost, you know her, you love her. My name is Claudia. I am the inside sales account manager here at Visory. I've had 7+ years of business to business sales experience, ranging from payroll to airplanes to financial industry cybersecurity, right? So I'm really excited to be here, be the MC for today, if you will. I'm skilled at bridging that business and technology gap. I don't like talking about myself too much, but I am really happy to be sitting here with Kyle today. Kyle, if you'll tell us a little bit about your background.
So, Claudia, I have been doing cybersecurity inside of either banks or wealth management firms for almost two decades. So, I
Wow.
guess I'm old now. Uh, I've gotten to build cybersecurity teams, specifically within banking, around that team of first responders and dealing with incidents and live triaging of things. I've worked extensively with regulators all throughout all of the initials for banking on the screen here and the SEC. I think that's the most important of what we're talking about today is the SEC. I have gotten to work directly within wealth management firms, primarily owned by banks and some standalone wealth management organizations, building out their cybersecurity compliance teams. And then I joined Visory midway through 2024. So I am working, as of the recording of this, almost a year and a half with Visory. So still new and shiny to the team.
I love it. We're so excited to have you, and I feel like I could pick your brain for hours on some of those back rooms conversations you have about cybersecurity. So let us jump into it. What we'll be doing today, guys, is starting with the why our secure audit exists, common gaps found in firms when we are doing these. This is one you'll really want to pay attention to. Tools and technical approach, so how we're really looking at your firm and what we're doing to keep you safe. We'll do a little bit of a dive into a case study, audit to maturity, right? Go into how this helps firms. And then we'll go give you a little bit of a teaser for our next one from secure audit to secure compliance. So that'll be our next webinar as well, diving a little bit more into that transition between you've got your results, now what, right? How do we keep safe in this ever-changing world? So I'm going to let us dive right into it. Kyle. Oh, before I start, I meant to ask you all, we have a poll today. So, when you hear cybersecurity, what is the first word or concern that comes to your mind? You'll have a polling pop up on your screen, guys. If you could take a second to read this and answer, that would be great. I would love to play some background music for you, but nobody wants to hear me sing. So, um, please go ahead and vote. This will help us understand where your heads are at as we go through this process. Data breaches, compliance, cost, all of those big scary words. I hate talking about them, but at the end of the day, it is what we got to focus on here in this financial management industry. And how
I
lucky are
think
we?
I think risk, Claudia. So that's not really on the screen and as far as our questions, but I think risk. I think that when we start having these conversations inside of firms, I start thinking about um, risk to the business, risk to operations. What happens if something should go wrong? And are we prepared for it? And are we watching the right things to make sure that we have a head start if things go wrong? So I'm excited to dive in deeper here.
I love it. Oh, and look at that. We've got a reputational risk answer as well. So it looks like risk and data breaches are what the majority of folks are concerned about or think about when cybersecurity comes to mind. Two really big players in this game. I'm happy to see everybody's on the same page that we are. All right, Kyle, lay some nuggets of wisdom on us. Tell me a little bit about why our secure audit exists.
Well, this came from us getting asked for more advisory from our clients, and that was one of the primary reasons for me to join Visory was around that more. And the more they were asking for was, we know that you're really good at delivering the traditional technology services and products that help keep us safe. But now we need to make sure that are we meeting the full expectations of the SEC, specifically for wealth management firms, the registered investment advisor, and that relationship with the SEC. How do we know that our program is appropriate and in place? How can we communicate that up to our leadership internally to the organization? And how do we, if there are gaps, how do we solve for those above and beyond just plugging in an EDR or making sure we're scanning for email and phishing requests and all of those things that we know we need to do? What are the things we're not thinking of? And how do we meet the expectations from the SEC? Jumping into that second item, the expectations from the SEC, they aren't very prescriptive in Reg
Mhm.
S-P. There's a lot focused in around management programs, but not really a ton of clarity around what should be part of those management programs. Um, and defining what those expectations are. We've had the very fortunate position here at Visory in running alongside of our clients in the wealth management space under this program here under Secure Audit and Secure Compliance. And we've gotten to understand specifically what are they looking for this year? What are they looking for traditionally year over year? And then previous experience from going through those audits in the past, bringing all that knowledge to your firm today in knowing that not only do we have a sound program in place to help manage that risk for your organization, for your firm, and protecting client data, we also know how to keep you out of trouble with the SEC as well, and what needs to be documented, what needs to be created, what processes need to exist, and making sure all those things are in place to address that third item at the end, making sure that we have a plan in place to not only address the technical risk, not only address the compliance risk, but making sure that that risk is transparent and understood by leadership all throughout that process.
I think it's so important too. You brought up the SEC and how lightly they define how to manage your cybersecurity, other than, hey, it's got to be in place. So, what do you think is the biggest pitfall you run across when you're running these audits? I know that's off the cuff.
The other thing that just popped in my mind, Claudia, is through these secure audits, we've had a number of firms that we have discovered along the way that they need to be compliant with the state of New York's Department of Financial Services, CRR 500, and that's the
Mm.
cybersecurity regulation for financial services organizations, which includes banks, people making investment advice, and wealth management firms. That whole group of clients are potentially have to comply with that as well. And in a couple of cases, we uncovered that requirement that their attorneys, their external legal firms that they work with had missed. And so we make sure that
Mm.
they are taken care of, that they are addressing all of those requirements, and the programs that we are implementing to meet the SEC's expectations very easily map to those expectations to the state of New York. So if there is a concern for you as a firm, we do it once and it covers both sides, and we can help you determine if you do need to comply with their program.
Oh, I feel like you're a wealth of knowledge. I'm really excited to keep digging into this. So please don't let me interrupt. Tell me a little bit more about what is the secure audit specifically.
So how do we start? I think that's the appropriate question. How do we
Yeah.
start? And so we have the baseline of those SEC expectations. We use a platform, so we use technology plus people in order to guide people through where are we at right now? And where are those gaps? Or are we meeting the expectations? And I think it's really important to note that the platform we're using allows us to collect that data once. And if the framework that we are measuring against, that yardstick, if it should change in the future, it's already mapped to the next framework. So if we do that assessment initially against the SEC's expectations, and later we find out that, oh, we also need to comply against the CRR 500 for the state of New York. Well, we've already addressed those questions and we map it out. And if there are any gaps or the delta, the difference that's between the two frameworks, we deal with that delta, that gap, and we don't have to redo the entire assessment. We've already covered those bases. We have the mapping internally within our technology platform. Same can be said for CIS, so the Center for Internet Security's 18 critical controls. They're on version 8.1 right now at the time of recording. Same thing with NIST CSF 2.0 or ISO standards. If we do have those additional standards that are expectations for the cybersecurity programs inside of your firms, again, we do it once and we can align it with any of these frameworks. We can apply it after the fact if we need to. And this isn't just interview driven. We're also collecting technical data through external vulnerability scanning. We're also importing security settings as configured right now out of your Microsoft tenants, your Microsoft 365, and how it's secured and how it's being protected against bad guys online, since it is a cloud-based system. We're scanning your website and we're collecting those technical details along with your policies, your procedures, and those artifacts that you have created internally to define and support your cybersecurity program. And as we exit out of this initial assessment, we provide that written report and the roadmap of where are your gaps and what would we recommend focusing in on first. So our goal is to be transparent through this whole process, be efficient in collecting that data, making sure that we are meeting the expectation of that yardstick that we are using, of that framework, and then making sure that it's clearly understood, are we in a good spot or are we not? And if we're not, what are the gaps and what can we do to shore those up? Do we have things that we can repurpose or take advantage of that we already own or that we're already paying for? Or do we need to sync additional products, additional services to shore these items up? And we're able to help point you in the right direction.
Gosh, so this really feels like so much more than your standard audit that you come across that many companies are providing. Really, to me, it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, we can tailor what we're looking at as well outside of just, hey, are you safe? Do you have any gaps in your firewall, for example?
Correct. So we want to make sure we're in alignment. That's what the kickoff call is as we get into setting up this process. So in that kickoff call, we want to make sure that again, we're aligned to the framework that we're going to be using. If there are any specific concerns that the client has, and making sure that we're addressing those all along the way, and then meeting the timeline requirements for turning this around. We typically try to turn this review very, very quickly around in order to get to the knowing part of that. It's turning the I think to the I know
Mm.
for the client.
Well, I love hearing a little bit of the behind the scenes of this. It's awesome.
So when we go through this assessment, um, we're going to give you a posture score. And one of the things that we've recognized so far is on the initial onboarding, going through the secure audit, um, you know, it's very common for us to assess the client somewhere between 4.5 and the low fives as a score, and using a scale of 0 to 10. So generally speaking, we're coming in kind of mid-level and uncovering a lot of risks and a lot of things that they thought were in place but may not have been in place. Also, it's completely it's very regular that we find out that um, there's incomplete coverage across their assets
Mm.
for security controls that are deployed and are deployed well. It's just they're not deployed across all of the assets. And we want to make sure that we're always trust but verifying, whether Visory is your MSP or MSSP or someone else is. We do this for whoever the IT is for your organization, whether it's internal IT, whether it's an external provider, whether it's us or someone else. We're here to assess what is that current state, trust but verify on all of those controls, make sure that we get to a spot where we know the state is, and then we're going to identify, are there areas of weaknesses, areas within certain domains as they map up to that framework, so we can start having more strategic conversations around shoring up those gaps. We're also going to discuss, like I said, those vulnerability scanning findings from the external side of things. We're going to review the Microsoft M365, that email in the cloud in the Microsoft world. We're going to review where we're at right now. It's very likely we're going to find misconfigurations around reducing that attack surface. It's very likely we're going to identify issues with the multi-factor configuration and how those conditional access policies are configured. So if you want to think about conditional access policies, those are the rules that we have built or that someone has built on when do we need to trigger a multi-factor prompt, and what
Mm.
devices and what identities are able to access email or the Microsoft online environment, and from where. And so we want to make sure that that's locked down. We have been finding a lot of environments that's been a problem, where
Mm.
literally you can log in from anywhere, from any device, and get access to these types of things. And we know that technical flaws are going to exist, that they have existed, and things like token theft and other manipulation strategies are a real thing. And so we're giving our clients guidance on how do we shore those items up? How do we make sure that we're addressing that risk that exists all the time? Because this is a cloud-based system.
I think it's interesting that you point out, anyone can access. A common finding is having too much access, right? We talked about data breaches being a concern at the beginning of the webinar. How do you see, open access playing into increasing that risk of data breach or increasing that risk of someone getting into your system where you'd prefer they didn't have it?
Well, I think it goes back to the attack surface. So the bigger footprint we have for an adversary to poke at and to prod at, the more risk we have as an organization. So our goal is, how do we shrink down that attack surface? How do we focus in on protecting less stuff, and then watching that less stuff better? How do we reduce what we have to do to protect our environment so we can do better at protecting it?
Mhm. I love the kind of idea of a target, right? It's a lot harder to hit the very center or a smaller portion than it is when you're looking at the whole thing overall. So visually shrinking that attack surface is really clicking for me.
I'm glad you're here. You put it better than I did.
Not at all.
Awesome. One of the other things that we identified during the kickoff call to make sure that we are giving the right deliverables is um, sometimes there's a concern around cybersecurity insurance policies and making sure that they can get renewal because they've been warned by their carrier or their broker that they need to make certain improvements in order to be an acceptable risk for renewal or to get that policy in place. um, we generally have the checklist of what's expected from the insurance carriers. And if there are specific concerns around that, we align the program to make sure that we are crossing those items off as we continue to mature the environment. Once we move out of the audit into that secure compliance, I realize I'm jumping ahead here, but we make sure that we're meeting those expectations as well, and making sure that as we're addressing uh, any gaps within the environment, we're doing it and documenting it in such a way that it's going to make that renewal process better. Our goal is if we can do multiple things with one process and make your life easier, that's our goal. Um, when we start looking at insurance policy compliance, these are things that can affect your premium that you pay every month. These are things that can affect your limits or sublimits. And then we also have reports over 2024 or 2024 and 2025 of carriers downrating policies if certain controls aren't in place, or if there is material defects that you thought were in place but weren't at the time of policy creation or renewal. So
Mm.
downrating means you may have thought you had $5 million worth of coverage, but since you were inaccurate in how you did your renewal, or you have a material defect in how your program is running, maybe they're going to downrate it so you only have coverage for 500,000 or $1 million, and you thought you had more than what you really did. And so those are real things that are affecting people out in the world of cybersecurity insurance right now.
Gosh, I am very surprised to hear that that's happening more frequently. Definitely a good thing to check into.
It's a new trend. So certainly something to keep in mind. It's also something to have to add to your discussions with your carrier or with your broker.
Yeah, great tip there.
All right. So the next thing in my list of things, the list of many things, is what are we seeing as we get into these assessments, this
You took the
initial
question out of my head,
gap
Kyle.
assessment?
What do we see?
Yeah. So just overall, very few registered investment advisors or wealth management firms are good at keeping their written information security plan up to date. That same is true for their incident response plan and their business continuity plan. Written documentation is not a strong point so far that we have observed in very many wealth management firms. And
Hmm.
so we have shortcuts. We have base policies to build off of and customize specifically for your firm. Get these up to date, make them actionable, and make sure that we're addressing the common concerns from the SEC side of things and meeting the expectation from Reg S-P and your regulatory needs. And so this is one of the very first things we start off with. We have to start with a plan, and that plan, as written, is your information security plan, along with that incident response plan and business continuity plan. So we make sure that that documentation is set up, that is communicated, and then if necessary, we will do all employee education around the information security plan. So in addition to things like doing social engineering testing through platforms like KnowBe4 or other things like that, we also will do that all employee training if needed to make sure that everybody is up to speed with the new version of the plan going forward. We also commonly see weak multi-factor authentication enforcements, We also have not been seeing very many firms doing at least annual user access reviews. So making sure that terminated employees or employees that have separated from the firm no longer have access to systems. Typically, firms are good at revoking access for that shared identity-based system. So either Active Directory or Entra or Microsoft 365, that email cloud-based portion, they're really good at doing that. They're also typically really good at revoking permissions for separated employees around their primary wealth management platform, that system of record that they're keeping all their clients. Where we've been finding weaknesses is those systems in addition to those primary systems that probably aren't integrated into single sign-on, that somebody within the business is the application owner of that. It's not the compliance officer. It's not uh, someone in internal IT. It's somebody within the business. And those are the applications that typically get forgotten about.
Mm.
And employees that have separated from the firm may still have access to. So we want to make sure that we're documenting all those cloud-based systems, all those systems that are used to support clients and the firm, and make sure that we're at least reviewing on an annual basis against an HR database or an export from payroll to make sure that we are aligned with who is a current employee for the firm and do they still have access to what they need to support the business.
I think that's such a good idea. One theme that I've seen as we've been doing these webinars is it doesn't always have to be a once a week a policy review, but if you just put a place or a cadence in place where you're able to go, okay, once a year we're going to make sure that everybody is accurately enlisted in our multi-factor authentication, or we're going to do once a month to review our WIS plan or our response plan in the event that something does happen. I feel like the best cybersecurity just comes down to good hygiene, washing your hands every day, meeting once a quarter. I really appreciate that you made that point.
Thank you. I also, as we get into these assessments, we're also uncovering situations where clients have SASE connections. So they are using essentially the new version of VPNs to keep everybody secure when they're connected
Mm.
to the organization. But the part that's often missed is configuring those cloud-based applications with IP address restrictions. So configuring them on where they can be accessed from. The big thing with implementing a VPN or a SASE client, like what we provide to our clients, is making sure that um, we're reducing that attack surface. So if we do have that in place, we have the ability to control where all of the employees are connecting from, what they look like on that source address on the internet. And with that, we can also make sure that all of the cloud-based applications are configured to only be able to be accessed from that source. So it prevents the rest of the internet from being able to do credential stuffing or credential guessing or brute forcing or all of those fancy words for somebody else trying to authenticate as you, either maliciously or with stolen credentials, because we know that's a real thing too. It can only now happen to somebody who is connected to that VPN or to that SASE client. So it's closing the loop on reducing risk. If we have implemented these controls, let's make sure that they are implemented to the best of the ability and take advantage of that risk reduction that we can get from some of those best of breed tools.
Can you do me a favor? Can you define a little bit more closely what SASE is for those who may not know it?
Yeah. So SASE is the new fancy words for a VPN client.
Mm.
What it is it's a link to log into, and it creates a persistent encrypted connection up into the cloud. And if you're able to use that as your jumping off point for connecting to your email or connecting to all of those cloud-based applications. So it's an encrypted tunnel that protects everything that's going to and from your computer. So if you want to think about it, sometimes there's a worry about connecting to public Wi-Fi or coffee shops or hotels or client sites or whatever that case may be.
Mm.
This encrypted tunnel allows you to have more confidence that everything truly is being kept secure, and you know that everything is protected from a firm data and from a client data perspective.
You know, I heard Kyle recently, a prospect told me that, a now client told me that connecting to unknown Wi-Fi is the new taking candy from strangers. So I love diving a little bit deeper into SASE because we do not take candy from strangers, but we can make sure that we're protected when we're out on the road meeting clients.
So I'm not sure if you're meeting the relevance to Halloween coming up here, but I get what you're saying.
It wasn't intentional, but it was appropriate.
All right. We also see either incident response plans that have not been tested recently, or business continuity plans that have not been tested recently or updated. So either the plan is out of date or we haven't tested. And I would just state generically that uh, a plan that isn't tested isn't really a plan. What you have is hope.
Well said.
And so we get in, we assess these, and then as part of the secure compliance offering, as that continuous month-over-month maturity process, uh, we make sure that we are guiding our clients through tabletop testing. We make sure that we're testing those controls that we expect to be in place to be able to recover data, can actually recover data, and guiding our clients through trust but verify. How do we not only trust that we have the right process in place, how do we not only trust that we have the ability to recover, how do we move beyond that and verify so that we know that everything that we have planned and all those controls that we have in place to recover data actually work. And so we guide all of that and make sure that it's in a sound place. All right. Earlier, Claudia, I mentioned that this isn't just people, it's also technology. We
Mm.
believe both are using both of them are in the best interest of our clients. And so with our platform, we're able to track where we're at right now, visually communicate where those gaps are, set those expectations against what does the SEC expect you to do versus where are you at right now, and then laying out that roadmap, what needs to be accomplished in what order to reduce the most risk first. How do we rapidly move to a place of compliance and making sure that we are driving risk out of the organization?
I'm loving the visuals that we have here. Are these all included in the reporting and in the platform?
They are, yes. And so we share access to the platform. We're able to generate reports out of the platform. And this is just that very pretty complementary side to all of the interview driven testing, all of those technical data collection points, and wrapping it all together so that it's easily understandable. We want to make sure that we are getting away from IT speak and talking about things in terms that every business can understand, because this isn't just cybersecurity, this is business risk. And we want to make sure that it's understood in the context of how you operate and how you serve your clients.
Absolutely. And we live in a world of data now, and sometimes that data can be overwhelming. I'm a very visual learner personally, so I love this part of the reporting where you can see visually the areas that you need to work on.
All right. And we mentioned earlier where we typically will onboard somewhere around the 5 score, and knowing that we can help improve that. The first step is knowing. So we can't fix things if we don't know about it. If we haven't done that whole verify step of the trust but verify, we don't really know where we're at. And so we need to understand, what does that landscape look like? Where are our gaps? How are we doing right now? And once we know that, then we can have areas of focus for improvement. In this example, we had a client that had moved from another IT firm to be supported by Visory And very quickly, we were able to start shoring up that risk, working with that client and making sure that we had all of their policies in place, that we had BCP plan and incident response plan covered, and then tested them, not just getting them up to speed with a plan that would work in both cases, but also doing that tabletop testing with their leadership, guiding them through, okay, let's go through this mock incident. Let's talk about our horrible, no good, worst day ever, hypothetically, before it
Yeah.
happens, so that we've been in that sparring match. We know what's going to happen when the real boxing match occurs. Uh, you don't get good by hoping. You get good by testing and creating that muscle memory of going through these things on a periodic basis. And that's what guides you through if the worst thing should occur.
I have a quick question. BCP testing. Tell me a little bit about what that is.
So business continuity testing. So this is business interruption, essentially. So
Mm,
let's say there's a technology failure, if there's a cloud provider that has an outage, if there is a key piece of software that isn't working, let's say that there is a weather event and it prevents access to a particular office location, or maybe it's a internet outage regionally. Someone gets a little frisky with a backhoe and takes out an ISP. Um, these things all happen, and so we want to make sure that we have a plan in place, and we've tested it. We've talked through this. We have alternate ways of conducting business where appropriate, if we can. And that might be alternate work locations. That might be different processes that we can employ. We may not have our primary system of record in order to operate on client accounts, but maybe we can reach out directly to the custodian to take action on the client's behalf, even if some of our technology is down. So going through these items in a real world scenario, we're asking questions, we're walking through the BCP plan and making sure that we're able to continue moving forward in a productive manner, making sure that we have a communication plan, both internally and externally, because if things are down, we need to communicate to our clients. We also need to know how to talk about this internally or where to focus client questions to internally, so these can be addressed consistently with how the firm would like to communicate to the clients. We also know that potentially, depending on what happened, people are going to be working in different work environments and making sure they're supported along the way. There may be notification requirements that we owe contractually to our partners. Talking through all of these items. Same thing with incident response plan testing. What would you do if there was a breach of data? Or what would you do if there was a bad actor that got access to your system of record, to your primary portal for your wealth management clients? What would you do if someone loses or has a laptop stolen from them while they're traveling? They leave it in the TSA bucket and get on their plane, and suddenly they're thousands of miles away from where they last saw their laptop and didn't even realize. These
yikes.
are all normal things that our clients have experienced, and we've helped them through as far as incident response.
Yeah, all good and very frightening real world examples. I appreciate that.
All right, so here's the heads up. Here's where we're going. After we get through the audit, we can do the secure audit as a one-time event and get that assessment. Where are you at right now? Help paint that picture and communicate that directly to leadership or to whatever the relevant parties are inside of your firm. From there, we have to start taking action, and either the firm takes action or we assist with it. And if we're assisting with it, that goes into our monthly services around secure compliance. And so we use that audit as that foundation. Where are we at right now? We start scheduling our weekly or biweekly meetings with the clients, making sure we're doing quarterly controls assessments, making sure all those things we think are protecting us are still protecting us, making sure endpoint protection is on every single endpoint, making sure we're reassessing periodically all those things that protect our cloud-based systems and making sure they're taken care of, making sure things like screensaver timeouts and local admin rights and all of those things that we just think are across all of our assets are actually across all of our assets and enforced. Um, these seem like simple things at first until we realize that things break over time. Patch management breaks over time. All of these technical controls that we rely on every day to make our lives more secure, well, we have to check in on them periodically to make sure that they're still doing what we expect them to be doing. It's kind of like milk. It goes bad over time, and you need to keep an eye on the expiration date and how soon we look at that expiration date depends on our tolerance for risk. And normally we recommend that we do it at least quarterly in the client environments that we're working with.
Again, putting something on the calendar to keep an eye on it. Nobody likes spoiled milk, so I really appreciate that analogy.
And then sometimes we get ourselves into an environment where there's a lot of things to make better, that there is a ton of gaps, and we start biting those off one piece at a
Mhm.
time. We help you work through it. It can be overwhelming, and we're here to make that overwhelming feeling go away. We're here to help make it easier. We obviously can't do everything all at once, but we can identify where are the most risk areas and deal with those first, shore those up, beginning with a plan and making consistent progress over time. We know that even the worst environments that we've been in, we've been able to get them into a very solid state within the first few months of engaging with us around secure compliance.
Wow. I can only imagine what the worst of the worst that you've seen is. All right, guys, one last poll here as well. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that your cybersecurity program would hold up if regulators ask for proof tomorrow? So, knock, 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 regulators are at the door. Are you confident 10 out of 10 it'll hold up? Are we a little bit worried, or is it getting you sweaty thinking about it?
Boiled milk.
Spoiled milk. Ooh, sweaty thinking about it.
Well,
Uh,
I have a level of confidence after I've built a program. I know where my expectation is.
I don't know if everyone has the skill level you do, Kyle. I need you to go through my personal information, make sure I'm not open to any risks. No Alexas in the home, right?
They're always watching.
They're always watching. All right. Let's see what these results are. It looks like we've got a little bit of a mixed bag. Some folks aren't feeling super confident, a couple twos, a couple middle of the range, some fives, maybe not super sweaty, but definitely concerned. And then I do have a 10 out of 10. Kyle, was that you?
That was not me. I'm not allowed to
Okay.
answer.
Somebody's got a fabulous cyber program, and we hope they're a client of ours. That's awesome. Thank you guys for responding to that.
We do have a few clients of ours that have not engaged with us yet around this service that are rock stars, and we know they exist, and we talk to them periodically, and they are the mark to meet, not beat, but meet as far as financial firms. So we know that there are some firms that definitely have a handle on things.
Oh, I love to hear it.
All right, so you asked a question earlier around how does this happen? How do we get those huge gaps on, hey, we just need to do everything. Um, so in our scenario, from our vantage point, when we're looking into how did this occur, usually it's either acquiring a firm or a firm getting spun out from a parent company as a standalone organization. So when you think about these two different situations, if you're acquiring a firm, obviously they're in a much different state than what you are. And we want to make sure that we're shoring up those gaps. And as you're acquiring them, we're making sure that we're communicating, this is our information security program. This is how we test for incident response. This is how we test for BCP. We're doing that social engineering testing and training, and we're making sure that all those security controls that may not have been in place or may have been inconsistently applied before are following in with our new program, making sure that every asset is covered with all the things that help keep either the firm or the client secure. So that's the first scenario. We're absorbing something else. They're not in the same spot as us. And now we need to get them up to speed with the entire firm. We work with a large number of aggregators and help them through these scenarios. The second scenario that we find ourselves in where we uncover a ton of gaps is, let's say a organization was under a parent company, but now they have separated and are a standalone entity. They don't have mom and dad watching out for them anymore.
Mm.
They are starting something new, and or they're transitioning from a IT provider to a new IT provider. There's just a lot of change that is occurring. And so we need to shore up that change. And there may have been somebody that had a great program before or not. There may be other reasons why they're being moved into a standalone client or a standalone firm. Um, we'll help you get rapidly understanding where are we at right now against those expectations. How do we make those improvements? And how do we make sure that we are confident we're protecting firm data and client data and honoring that trust? Because at the end of the day, wealth management firms primarily, they deal in trust, just like banks. Sure,
Mm.
there's money involved, but their money wouldn't be there if they didn't trust your ability to protect it. And we want to make sure that we're supporting your ability to honor that trust that the clients are placing in you.
Wow, very, very wise beyond your years, Kyle. I appreciate that. We all are in the business of trust at the end of the day. That's huge.
All right, we're getting towards the end, so I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Oh my gosh, you're flipping the script on me. That is a-okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you would, the chat is open. Scale of 1 to 10. How did we do today? Drop it on in there. Give a little props to Kyle for joining us. As you see on the screen, we do have a secure audit brochure. You can scan this and download it just to get a little bit more information about what we talked about today. We are so excited to be offering this as a service to prospects and clients alike. So it doesn't matter if you already work with us, we're happy to dig in a little bit deeper. Go ahead and scan to download that. It should take you straight to a website that'll allow you to a little bit more information that we talked about.
And we're also recording this, so we do have
And
that option. They can reach out directly to you.
absolutely.
Awesome. I normally switch the slides way too fast, so you got to tell me when you're ready for the next one here to make sure people have the right amount of time to scan this.
I think we're good. Please go back and take a look if you don't have time to scan. And last but certainly not least, guys, any questions for Kyle or myself today? We really, again, appreciated having you on. We have a fabulous resource in front of you, so please feel free and don't hesitate to throw anything in the chat or the Q&A.
All right, I'm going to move and get us. Oh, we're supposed to tell them about the next series.
Oh, while you guys are typing your questions, we can tell you that Kyle will be back. Woo! Part two is November 13th. We're going to talk phase two of this process. So you've been audited. Now what? How do we keep you in that compliance mindset? Moving forward, how do we keep that firm in that bubble of trust as always? November 13th, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will all be here. We hope you will as well. I did get one question, Kyle. How long does the audit process normally take?
So we try to turn this around very, very quickly. We want to get to the point where knowing, and that we typically try to turn that in 30 to 45 days. So we want to make sure that we are working with you. This is driven primarily around availability from the client side of things. Typically, there is investment in time. Well, there always is investment in time in going through the secure audit. This is not a thing that you can just buy and check a box and make all your problems go away. We are actively working with you all within your firm to make sure we're understanding what that current state is so that we can start making decisions around that. And that time investment is typically in 4 to 6 hours, give or take, from the firm side to go along with our time in those interview-driven assessment type questions. But yes, we try and turn that around very, very quickly.
Awesome. Okay, and I had one other question as you guys look at our fabulous faces here saying thank you. Um, Somebody said this seems like it might overlap from your annual required risk assessment. Does it differ? Does it overlap? Can you give a little bit of insight to that?
So yes and no. So the easy answer is yes, it's 100% overlap. And this counts as your annual risk assessment. So if you want to engage somebody and not have to run that internally, this is a direct replacement for it. We do the secure audit as part of secure compliance every year. So we want to make sure that we're reassessing ourselves in a conservative manner and going through that process on an annual basis. This counts as your annual risk assessment, and this helps set the tone for keeping things in a good spot with secure compliance throughout the course of the year. And as we do those controls validations throughout the year, making sure we're doing user education, making sure we're testing and verifying that things are working appropriately, specifically tabletop testing around incident response and business continuity, making sure we're doing all of those cloud security reviews and making sure that we're positioning you in a good spot throughout the course of the year.
Awesome, thank you. And then kind of Tom, again, the second part of your question is if a client is SOC 2 audited, does that cover all of those considerations or would that be different?
So that's going to be different. That's a different
Okay.
measuring stick. And so SOC 2 has some things that it looks in addition to what the SEC looks at, but it also doesn't catch all the things that the SEC is expecting of you. So we would want to talk and make sure that you're covering both sides of that. And when we work with clients that are going through a SOC 2, we just add that as a second framework. We make sure that we're covering both sides all together and then making sure that we're gathering the appropriate evidence. So did we get those policies approved in a leadership committee? Are we providing the memos around our incident response testing and our BCP testing, again, to the leadership committee, getting those in the meeting minutes? Are we able to document the reviews that we've done to make sure the controls are working as designed and that they're deployed across all the assets? Again, how do we build a program that's going to sustain both what the SEC expects, but also meet your throughout the year testing requirements for the SOC 2 process? So we're able to do both, but I wouldn't say that doing one covers the other in 100%.
Great. Thank you so much for that clarification, guys. You'll see another little scan box down at the bottom. If you'd like to talk to Kyle and myself a little bit further about this, please feel free to grab some time on my calendar. I'm happy to give a little bit more information and would love to dive in deep with you guys. As we wrap this up, Kyle, any last words of wisdom? You've given us a lot today.
No, I'm still thinking about ice cream. So you set the tone. I guess the theme of today is ice cream.
Oh, dang. Now I am too. All right, we got to get out of here and go get some ice cream from our freezer. So thank you all so much for joining. As always, this will be recorded and resent. Would love to continue the conversation. Kyle, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure.
You made it easy, Claudia. Thank you.
Chucks. All right, take care, guys. Have a great Wednesday.